Welcome to Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafedbank.com. I'm Aaron Levine. We've got a trivia showdown with Terry Holloman we've been waiting weeks for. But we start with some familiar faces in our weekly roundtable from the sidelines. Oh, this is a good-looking group, even with Luke Willson joining us today. Luke Willson, the long-time...
Easy, Aaron.
I'm saying the long-time Seahawk, the future rugby star and magazine cover model with us, Luke Willson, joining us today, along with Danny O'Neill, co-host of Danny and Gallant on 710 ESPN Seattle, and our very own Jessamine McIntyre. I think this is the story of the week, guys. DK Metcalf entering the 100-meter dash at this weekend's USA Track and Field meet in California. He didn't even compete in track and field at Ole Miss. So what are your expectations for DK this weekend?
I think he's going to win.
He's not going to win, Luke. He's not the fastest guy in the country.
I think
Did
he's
he bring
going to win.
Buda Baker with him? I mean, just put that guy in front of him. He's got 22 miles an hour.
I mean, that was I believe Arizona's a grass field and with equipment on, man. I think he's going to win.
I'm honestly interested to see how this ends up looking. And I don't underestimate DK Metcalf's speed or his competitiveness.
I think he's actually going to run backwards and win.
See, now that's just crazy talk. I'm always curious. I've always wondered, like in America, our highest paid athletes tend to play basketball, football, and baseball. In certain parts of the country, hockey as well. But what would happen if you had the fastest football players compete against track and field athletes? So I'm excited to see how it is. And it feels like a little bit of a flashback to, they used to have the NFL superstars, and you'd even have guys from different sports that would compete. They would do tug of war. They would do all these feats of strength. Now, guys weren't making so much money that their teams were like, hey, you better chill in the offseason. And guys actually liked the extra bit of cash that came with those. So we don't see that sort of stuff anymore because it's so lucrative. But yeah, I'm super interested.
Is there any worry here that he potentially gets injured? I mean, pull a hamstring or something. I mean, this is being the offseason. Obviously, there's a little bit of time to recover from it. But do you think there's any concern on the side of the Seahawks?
You asking me?
Any of you guys?
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's like the whole getting injured thing is like a false narrative that's pushed to athletes in high school, specifically to parents that are worried that blah, 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 blah. It's like if I'm the Seahawks and DK Metcalf's been training to race Olympic speed guys, I mean, I'm pretty excited. I mean, yeah, there's risk of injury. Sure, there's risk of injury every day, you know? So I don't think that that's the thought that's crossing anybody's mind.
It's always been funny to me that football, which basically has 100% injury rate, and just the act of playing it is such a huge risk. And then teams, when it comes to guys doing other things like available, like I remember this was at Cheney, I think it's 2004. And there ended up being a pickup basketball game. Eastern Washington had a really good hoops team that year. It included Alvin Snow. There were a couple other guys. I believe Pariseau was there. They ended up going – the team went to the tournament. I'm not sure if it was that season or the next year. And at training camp, there ended up being a pickup game. And Corn Robinson was playing, Seneca Wallace, and it was competitive. And the coaches found out about it. And you had 3 people running down there because they're like, we've got $40 million worth of athletes that are out there playing a pickup game against this team, and you don't want it. And I was like, but it's safer to play basketball, isn't that anything than the football practices you'll do tomorrow? But teams tend to take a negative view. If you're going to get hurt, they want you doing it on company time, which is always strange to me.
Well, if DK was dealing with some sort of hamstring issues already, then I might be a little bit concerned, and I could see them being like, no, if he was in some sort of rehab, that's the most finely tuned athlete. No offense, Luke, but the most finely tuned athlete that I think all of us have ever seen. We all saw the draft. We all saw him next to Pete. I think we can say that he at least takes care of himself probably more than or as well as any athlete in any sport. Yeah,
there is the hamstring ordeal, and I'm not trying to downplay hamstrings, but, if you tweak a hamstring in what month is it? May? Beginning of May?
Right now, yeah.
Should be fine by September or August, I guess, when camp starts. So I think especially with sprinting, there's no contact, there's no cutting. I'm not too worried for our guy, man. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, this isn't some all-star, sand volleyball championship where the Vikings running back in the day got injured?
No, it was a New England running back. That was a bad deal, man. Robert Edwards, he's a really good rookie, and he mangled his knee playing flag football, beach flag football. It was an awful injury, just horrific. They stopped doing that after that game.
Well, DK is running in a straight line, so I think he should be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jessamine.
We're really looking forward to that. And on that note, in a normal year, players would be at NFL facilities right now this month. I mean, they'd be going through the off-season training program and then the voluntary OTA workouts coming up later this month. This year, the players are kind of fighting for an all-virtual off-season. And at first they cited COVID, but now J.C. Tretter yesterday saying that, this would be for future years also, and they're kind of trying to change the entire structure. Is this an argument you think the players can actually win an all virtual offseason outside of mandatory mini camps and training camps?
You go. I got some wild takes on this one, man.
So I think they can win it. This is a three-sided argument. There's the owners who are most concerned and primarily concerned about how the revenue gets shared. So that's their number one concern. They wanted a 17th regular season game. They got a 17th regular season game. They basically forced that through. And the players, from their perspective, is what I've seen. They've been like, well, we've got to get something. Like if you're going to just force things on us, we're going to try to advocate for what we can get. And in this case, it's reducing the work schedule in the off season. And I think the owners are like, oh, fine by us. And then the coaches are like, no, we need that. We need the off season. And either the coaches and the owners need to get on the same page about what they value, because otherwise I totally get the players saying like, it can't be all take and no give.
Yeah. The reality is it's all one big conspiracy.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we don't actually have a union, Danny.
Oh, do you have a union?
It's a thing that pretends to be our union, but is actually working for the NFL. Case in point, man, name one thing the union has got that the players actually wanted. I mean, I don't think you can name one. So whatever the NFL says, there'll be backdoor deals made into our union, and then it'll be like, oh, our hands are tied. That's how it goes, man. We don't have a legitimate fighting union, and I'm sure they'll be like, hey, the NFL gave us number changes, which we didn't even want in the first place. So like you said, we'll be back at work in no time, especially once the COVID stuff clears. And the off season will go on like normal.
If you're going back, by the way, Luke, what number are you going to be?
I mean, I'm sticking with 82 if I'm going back, but we'll see.
Do tight ends have the choice? Like, can you get a single digit if you wanted to?
I mean, I think you could, but I just, again, man, I'm not playing into these conspiracy games. They try and give us crumbs. Well, they take everything, man. Here's a little crumb for the boys. This guy. You can't fool me.
What's hard, though, is you have a union that represents a huge range. Like what quarterbacks want, and they tend to be the loudest voices, is very different from what guys who are fighting to get 3-3, right? 3 years and 3 games, which is when you earn your pension. And so you can get these very different priorities from what the union, what the actual player, like what the rank and file union members want, because the priorities from the highest paid players are different from what the lower paid guys, or the guys that are kind of just trying to scramble to make a living and get a career out of it, want. It is a hard group to represent.
And those lesser experienced guys need reps in order to prove themselves to the coaches. And if they're not getting the reps at these OTA workouts, I mean, I don't know how much outside of phase 3 of OTA workouts is really when they would get the meaningful reps outside of mandatory minicamp and training camp, but they need as much as possible. And so I think a lot of these younger players that aren't established in the league are looking to have more opportunities out there that they wouldn't get if it was all virtual.
But that's the trap, right? Is that you hold that out and say, hey, you really want this job. And that's how voluntary, quote unquote, voluntary becomes basically mandatory. It's voluntary if you want a job that you have to do this, because coaches are able to pit players against each other for this finite number of jobs.
Well, I mean, if that was the argument, though, why wouldn't you just kind of have something in the sense of like baseball does, where you have a developmental league or some developmental weeks? It's like, if you're there to see guys that are trying to get a job, that's a very different scenario than bringing in 8, 9, 10-year vets. Quite frankly, probably, and if they're professional about their business, probably do a better job training outside of the building because there's more one-on-one attention. You can go at your own schedule. Guys have families, guys have whatever going on. Hey, I got to mix and match instead of being there, and it's no disrespect to any of the NFL strength coaches, but they got a tough task here, man. They got, 90 guys in an off season, and there might be, 3 or 4 strength coaches per team. And you've got a finite number of hours that is CBA regulated. So then on top, and in those hours, there's film, there's meetings, there's, like you said, OTAs. So I think, part of the reason why a lot of the vets don't like it is because they actually come in physically more prepared by not going back in. Not all the vets. Some of the vets want to go and party, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There's guys that just want to be on an extra couple month-long bender.
Well, that's why I'm glad Treader finally came out and said, this is something that we're working on for the future, and we're not using, because I feel like half of the league was using COVID as an excuse to say, hey, we can't be back there because of COVID, when they really, they were partying or they were hanging out with people and they weren't necessarily following the protocols that the league is asking them to follow. But then they're still using COVID as an excuse not to show up and have an all virtual off season. So, I feel like some people were talking out of two sides of their mouths.
I'd like to raise my hand that say I'm all for people working as little as possible. Like, I think that's an okay. And I'm completely, whether it's a COVID excuse or anything else, like that's the American dream, right? To be paid more than you're actually worth and to work as little as possible. So I'm all on the side of that.
Well, I'm sorry. I do feel like some people did genuinely get a lot out of the virtual mini camps and the virtual off season last year. Guys were talking to each other more and more, or at least I heard this from players, just when we had talked to them, there's a lot more one-on-one. Coach Carroll had said that he felt like he had a lot more contact. Of course, he's going to say all the positive things all the time, but there are some tangible things when it comes to communication that you get that are a little bit different than just the in-person. And I know that each has its benefits. But I do recall several players saying that they felt a sense of unity just because they were all apart together.
I don't really believe that it's going to be up to the players and what the players want, man. It'll be whatever the NFL wants, they'll get. You know what I'm saying, Danny? You feel me, my guy?
I do. I feel bad for you, though, too, because, the union should be the one that's standing between you and the bosses, right? Providing a little bit of a firewall.
You said it earlier, when you hear the word union, to me, growing up in the Windsor area, you think of one of the auto industry unions, a working man's union. When the reality is this is not a working man's union. Conspiracy chats aside, there's 100 players in the NFL that the owners really care about that are the guys that really make the money for this league, or at least the bulk of the money. And, they view the most of the rest of us as, replaceable, expendable, whatever you want to say. So, in my opinion, I think our union really represents the 100 players, so to speak, not the whatever is it, X amount of thousand. I don't have the math in my head, but
that's what was interesting to me about the last union vote, because it seemed like that it wasn't what the 100 players wanted. Like that the 100 players wanted to oppose and vote down that last CBA that was there. And it seemed like the reason the vote went the way it did is because you had a lot of guys, kind of that group that were focused on, hey, I don't want to dig my heels in now. I've got to do everything I can to get my 3 years and 3 games, to become vested, to have a pension, like all of those things that go along with it. That they were like, and if that means playing 17 games, I'm cool with playing 17 games. It seemed like the last deal that the players agreed to was less what those 100 players, the top 100 players wanted, and more what the rank and file guys would have been okay with.
Well, on a completely different note, and we'll leave that run right there.
Well,
and
you don't want to have
really
hardcore labor studies discussion.
I was going to say either somebody brings up the Teamsters right now, or we're just going to move on, and that's what we're going to do. I've never been a huge fan of auto racing in general. I casually watch NASCAR or IndyCar. I have never watched Formula One my entire life. I'm obsessed with the Netflix show on Formula One. And now I'm interested in the races that happen every single week. And I know I'm not the only one because I've seen it out on social media. We also see how much interest the NFL gets with Hard Knocks on HBO. The question here is, why don't we see other sports that aren't as popular? And of course, Formula One and NFL worldwide are pretty popular, but the less popular sports, why don't they try something like this, like the WNBA? Because, I mean, if I all of a sudden have an interest in a guy like Max Verstappen or Daniel Ricciardo, who I had never heard of before the past few weeks, why can't I have the same interest in some point guard or forward for the Minnesota Lynx or New York Liberty?
I feel like if I saw Sue Bird and the Seattle Storm and Breanna Stewart on a show, I would get into it if it was produced with that same level. I don't know if it's up to the league or producers though that do that, because it sounds like if it wasn't a distraction to a team, that could be something. But Formula One, yes, they have their whole auto racing team, but it's really like one person. When it's a team sport, it's kind of hard to not be a distraction. So I guess they do Hard Knocks, so it's possible. But I know that no head coach wants to do Hard Knocks when they find out they're going on Hard Knocks.
Luke was on Hard Knocks. Luke and his Cavs made Hard Knocks debuts.
No question, Danny. No question about that.
What was that like?
Oh, I mean, it was a little bit weird in the sense of that camp in Oakland was not in Seattle. Our camp is at the facility in Renton. And, you go to the hotel, you go home. Where that camp, you stay in a hotel in Napa, and the field was basically attached to the hotel, if that makes sense. So the reason I'm saying it was a little strange was it almost felt like the cameras were everywhere. Like you never really, like, yes, you had these robot cameras in your meeting room, but it was like even the hallway, they might have been doing a segment on one of the players, and they're like, there's a camera guy in the hallway, like, yo, this is in the room. And you're just like, you're almost afraid to talk because, they're saying, is it the walls have ears? Is that the saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they actually had ears, man. You couldn't go anywhere. You're like, yo, what am I on or what am I not on?
I agree with you, Aaron. First of all, let me get this out of the way. That, like, NASCAR is the appropriate American sport. Like, auto racing wise, the Formula One is whiny little European engines, right? Like, like it's America, like horsepower, like that's the but I get the appeal of the Formula One show. The one thing
they're not just making left-hand turns the whole time either. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's whatever. The guy takes out his steering wheel. It doesn't have the proper American bravado like the moonshine running roots of NASCAR, which is salt of the earth, like pure Americana. The part about reality TV and making those, I think what limits it is that those shows need bad guys and drama. And if you volunteer to make yourself part of that and to open yourself up to that, inevitably those storylines are going to leak in, and there are going to be some people who don't like the way that they're characterized. And it's not that it's made up, but it's that it's dramatized, right? Like the producers of those shows are going to look for things that follow the formula of conflict. So I think that a lot of teams and athletes, understandably, are reluctant to sort of, yes, I'd like to open myself up to that process and we'll get exposure. We're not quite sure how it's going to come out. Some people might not like how it is, but it'll be a net positive. I think they're reluctant to open themselves up to the kind of characterizations that would come with reality TV.
And I think this is where the league steps in and says, no, you're doing it. I mean, we see it with Hard Knocks every year. There are teams that don't want to do it, but they're forced to. So a league like the WNBA could come down to a few of these teams and say, listen, whether you like it or not, whether it's going to become dramatized or not, we want to make an experiment here. We want to see whether this is actually going to increase the popularity of the league and the exposure of the league, and whether people can start connecting in some way, shape, or form with some of the athletes because they now understand their personal stories a little bit better. It's just a thought.
I think it's fascinating. Luke, did you watch Hard Knocks? Like, did you watch what came out of that year that they were setting up the cameras and that they were filming everything?
Not fully. I mean, I'd get sent the odd clip of my stupid ass in there, for my buddies. No, I never saw an entire episode. To be honest with you, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, Danny. One of the first episodes, they I was very agitated by this, but I was sleeping in my room, about to go to sleep, and my boys are like, bro, you got blown up by a rookie safety like that? I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So, I've been blown up in the NFL, but like when you get blown up, you like specifically remember those moments. And it was early in camp, and I'm like, what are they? And HBO had basically taken a scene of a play where I was actually talking, not too serious, but talking a little smack to a rookie defensive end, and had clipped what I said, and then taken a play of a rookie safety coming downhill and blowing up a receiver. And the receiver had long hair, so all you really saw was the hair fly. And they had made it so that it looked like I had gotten blown up and then got up. And then so some other dude on our team had gotten blown up, and they clipped. All you see is this like guy with hair flying out of his helmet. And they clipped to me talking. I don't know if that's allowed on Q13, to a completely different guy on a completely different. Okay. So you talk about like dramatizing. I'm like, then I go to the producer. I'm like, that's not even me. They're like, we didn't even know. How can we not even? We're so sorry. I'm like, you didn't know? You didn't know that this was even on the same day? I'm like, you didn't know that the clips weren't like, that had nothing to do with me. No, we didn't know. I'm like, this is a joke. The series is a joke. 90% of the things that are said on it is a joke. Not that, and I hear what you're saying, Aaron. For sure, definitely would boost popularity. Anything on Netflix these days, I think will become popular. I remember reading some article about the Queen's Gambit and like chess sets. So, but as a player, as an athlete, that was a tough pill to swallow. And I was also released at the end of that training camp. And they made a mockery of that as well. It was okay. It was the next week in San Francisco, I felt like a mini celeb, but other than that, it was really not that great.
Well, you got used. You got used, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like I don't know. I think you got everybody in this room can agree that like the more and more I've been longer in this industry, the more I realize that the narratives are very fake. I'm like, you have, again, that was a microcosm, but a lot of the stuff that I did see on HBO, like that's not even remotely close to being true. It's almost like they concoct storylines to draw more views, draw more whatever.
It's reality television. Like, welcome to The Bachelor. There you go.
Well, the moral of the story is, if Luke, you're ever on a Hard Knock show again, go with the bleached hair. That way they can't edit in the brown hair of whoever else.
I can't believe that it was another long hair. They just found a random long hair getting hit, and they're like, "Hey, look what's happening here."
Must be Luke. So what I did do, which it's all about the small victories at this point, because obviously it's tough to take down the man, aka HBO. Was I would wait for really precise moments where I knew they would, that'd be a good moment for them, or like they're in the middle of like a walking interview, and I would just sabotage the moment. I'd get right in the boom mic. I'd say something absolutely offside, very, very lots of profanity laced nonsense. They go, "Sir, I ruined your clip, bud. Shouldn't have put that on there." You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Oh, it looks like we have to redo this. Oh, you wanted to use that, producer? Not anymore. I think I'm kidding, Danny. I'm not kidding. I probably did that 30, 40
I don't believe you're kidding. I respect the hustle. I respect it, man.
Little subtle victories, get a little payback.
I think we're officially turning this into a reality television podcast / broadcast going forward, because this is too much fun. Luke, thanks so much for your insight there. You can run into Luke just about anywhere on a rugby or football field soon. What do you think?
Hopefully bough.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. Hopefully both.
And then during season, you're going to join us in studio for analysis also?
How tough are your bosses there, Aaron? Because I got a lot of things to say, man. I can't have the man trying to hold me down,
Hey, as long as you don't use the 7 words from George Carlin, which I know you used one of those, maybe.
What are the 7 words?
I can't use them right now. That's part
Why
of it.
not?
Well,
I don't even know who George Carlin is.
I'll have you look it up after we finish here.
The cord. I mean, that's out 3 years ago, man. You got to tell Q13 Fox get you some AirPods, my guy.
What's
going on over there?
AirPods up next. And moving right along, it is trivia time. Jessamine does her best Aaron Rodgers game hosting job with On the Clock. Well, it's now time for a showdown of all showdowns. Mr. Terry Holloman, the regular Jeopardy viewer who's been on the weakest link, today stooping to our level and accepting our challenge by going on the clock. You ready for this, Terry?
I'm as ready as I'm going to get it, Aaron.
Listen, if there's any music tonight, I'm done for, because Terry is the music encyclopedia and incredibly impressive in other categories as well. So if I lose, I have a feeling I'm going to have to hear about this every single time we tape Talking Huskies this season.
Yeah, but you got every other category locked down, so there's that.
We're about to find out. Well, on the line tonight are bragging rights and a $100 gift card to Daniel's Broiler, but you're going to have to beat me outright. These questions are provided by The Fish, Jeff Aaron's Fame Trivia USA. You can check them out at Fame Trivia USA on Facebook. Each of us is going to have a minute to answer as many questions as possible. So you're going to go first. I'm going to switch headphones. I'm taking my earphones out. I'm going to play a little Danity Kane for you here. If you can hear that. A little old school. Our Jessamine McIntyre standing by, so good luck, Terry.
All right, Terry, are you ready for this?
Let's do this.
Okay, you are officially on the clock. The Seattle Pilots only played one season as a Major League Baseball team. Where are the Seattle Pilots now?
Minnesota.
What brand of soap is considered manly? Yes, but I like it too.
I don't know, Old Spice.
Who was the original host of NBC's Deal or No Deal?
Merv Griffin.
What sporting goods company provides all the official basketballs to the NBA?
Oh, geez. Nike. I don't know.
In what U.S. state will you find Vanderbilt University?
Oh, geez. Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
Which is larger, a gigabyte or a megabyte?
Gigabyte.
Which one is not a Looney Tunes character? Donald Duck or Daffy Duck?
Daffy's not allowed.
Okay.
Donald!
That will do it. Give Aaron a wave right now so he knows that you're all done. All right, Aaron, are you ready?
I am.
You are officially on the clock. The Seattle Pilots only played one season as a Major League Baseball team. Where are the Seattle Pilots now?
Milwaukee.
What brand of soap is considered manly? Yes, but I like it too.
Irish Spring.
Who was the original host of NBC's Deal or No Deal?
Howie Mandel.
What sporting goods company provides all the official basketballs to the NBA?
Rawlings.
In what U.S. state will you find Vanderbilt University?
State, Tennessee.
Which is larger, a gigabyte or a megabyte?
Gigabyte.
Which one is not a Looney Tunes character, Donald Duck or Daffy Duck?
Donald Duck.
If you purchased a pair of Foster Grants, which did you purchase?
Pass.
What U.S. Army rank is higher than a captain?
General.
All right, that'll do it. And Aaron, you are once again victorious with a 6-2 score.
Oh.
I got a whole two?
You got two.
You got two, Terry. You got two.
I tried to fix the last ones. I could at least gave me three.
No, that's against regulations.
I got my Daffy and Donald mixed up.
Well, I do that all the time. I feel like, though, this should be a weekly thing. What do you think?
Man, I need some help. I needed some coffee. I needed a refresh. I need something. I wasn't ready.
We'll get you some caffeine. We'll do a rematch in a few weeks from now. Former Huskies running back Terry Holloman. Shout out to Snohomish County, by the way. I know you got the Seattle. You're repping the Seattle area. You're up in the north side too, though, right?
Yeah, I'm a little bit north, but we still represent for Seattle. You know, you guys need all the love you can get.
I love it. Well, you know what? I got something for your coffee. I got a Q13 coffee mug for you, and it's going to head on up there to Snohomish, and we'll see you soon.
Right on, Aaron. Thank you, guys.
So here are the answers. The Seattle Pilots are now the Milwaukee Brewers. Irish Spring Soap is considered manly, yes, but I like it too. I like that slogan, by the way. Howie Mandel was the original host of Deal or No Deal. Spalding provides all official basketballs to the NBA. A gigabyte is larger than a megabyte. Donald Duck is not a Looney Tunes character. Foster grants are sunglasses, and the U.S. Army rank one higher than captain is major. And for the record, I'm not really that good. And if you want to be a part of On the Clock, just head to Twitter and send me a note at Aaron Q13 FOX. Okay, now time for Against All Odds. And because we won't have a show next week, here are the current betting odds for the Preakness Stakes, the second leg of the Triple Crown. The Kentucky Derby winner, Medina Spirit, is the second favorite at 7-2, behind the favorite Essential Quality. You see some of the others there as well on your screen. Now, 36 horses have won both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. I do not believe Medina Spirit will make it 37. I'm actually going to go with the 9-1 horse. You see right there, Concert Tour at 9-1. It's a stablemate of Medina Spirit, but he'll have fresh legs after skipping the Kentucky Derby. He won stakes races at Oak Lawn and Santa Anita earlier this year. So how about a win for Concert Tour, and maybe even take a box exacta with the favorite Essential Quality going off at 5-2. That's going to do it for this episode of Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank. And a huge thanks to former Seahawk Luke Willson, Danny O'Neill, and Jessamine McIntyre for joining the show. For the entire production crew, I'm Aaron Levine. We will see you in a couple of weeks.